This is my all-inclusive USB charging station that I made myself. First thing I would do when I got to a set was set up this little USB charger that I got here. I would set that up on an extension cord to charge all these different lavs, because typically what would happen is I would start in the morning and shoot until lunch, and then at lunch I would want to recharge my lavs just in case we had a long afternoon, because sometimes we would go into the night. You don't want to be stopping in the middle of the shoot because your batteries died. So you want to keep those charged up, and anytime I had a lunch break or an opportunity to charge those batteries, I would recharge them, even if they're just halfway down. That way I know that I'm good to go for a long time. And as you see, there's two sets of them. There's the first set I got, 2 lavs and a receiver, and then the second set I got later, so I could have 4 lavs and a receiver. And then I also purchased, as you've seen in previous videos, the Røde NTG mic, which is right here. So those are all USB chargeable. The microphone would stay charged a long time also, but I just didn't ever want to run out of batteries right in the middle of the shoot. I've done it before when I first started, and it's not a good feeling, especially if you've got a bunch of people in there and nobody wants to stop and take an hour or even a half an hour for you to charge or partially charge your microphones and lavs. So anyway, I would get to this set and set up my USB on a table, find an outlet and plug that in. And so I'd have all these cords dangling out for that. And then also I wanted to charge these are my Panasonic batteries for my camera, my Lumix camera. These are the batteries for that. And I always wanted to keep at least one of those charged and ready to go. And typically what I would do is, work on the camera until one battery would die, and then I would pop that in here and take that one out and swap them out, so I always had fresh batteries ready. So I had to set up that little area. And then later on I got these. These are the Sony type batteries. These are the F550s. They're pretty standard, used for charging other things besides Sony cameras. They're pretty universal. Canon and Sony batteries are used for other things besides their specific cameras. Like I've got some LED lights that use these. Anyway, there's lots of devices that use those. The monitor that I use on my camera uses a battery, and they come in different sizes. These are the smallest, and they go up. They look the same from the top, but they all get thicker. So there's a medium and then a real big one, which they obviously get heavier too. So anyway, I've got a bunch of those for different things. Always wanted to keep those charged up and ready. And also I have a pair of GoPros that I use for action shots, underwater shots, stuff like that. So I was always keeping my GoPros charged too. The USB battery, although those last all day, you do need to charge those from time to time. Usually at the end of the day, a long day, I'll go ahead and charge that up for the next day. So that's a USB charged device also. And then lastly, I've got, I think I showed you in my previous video, I've got my flashlight as well as this little LED headset, this coal miner's lamp that I like so much because it makes me look like a complete dork. But I get the job done. I've got good light wherever I go, and that's hands-free, so I'm free to hold a camera or a boom mic. That's just a brilliant thing to have in dark situations. That's USB as well. All these different devices, and they're typically spread out all over a desk or in the trunk of a car or any place I could find a place to charge batteries. I would plug in and do that. It was getting out of hand. I just had this huge, you can imagine I had like this huge octopus of batteries. It's just kind of a big mess. And if you're outdoors, you never know when it's going to start to rain. So that was an issue, keep covering things up when it started to rain. And mainly transportation, just all this stuff, lugging it around loose in a Ziploc bag or something like that. The Crown Royal bag wasn't exactly cutting it for me. I needed something more professional and concise. So I decided to build my own little, I didn't see anything like this available online or anything like that. So I said, well, I'm gonna have to build my own. So I have a place to charge all of my batteries. And one of the nicest things about it is that you can shut this whole thing down. I usually take that microphone off there, leave that inside there. So if it starts to rain, or you're going for lunch or something, you can just shut this whole thing, and it'll keep rain and stray animals off of your expensive mic chargers. So I found these cases on Amazon. This is not an expensive case like the one I've got back here. This is a Nanook case that I use for my lenses, cameras, and stuff like that going through airports. You can't really see it on the camera right there, but that's a pretty expensive case. As you can see, I like these guys a lot. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, and I'll list that down below so you can see. But I think these were about $45, $40 or $45 for the case. It came with some foam inserts, the plucky kind, so you can do that if you wanted. I didn't. I wanted the empty case, but it comes with some nice thick foam if you'd like to do that as well for your other devices. I'll show you. I've got some GoPros stashed in this other one over here, which is great. The first thing I did was I kind of got all the devices that I have here and figured out how I wanted them to configure in the case. As you can see, it's pretty tight, but I figured out where I wanted everything and kind of traced it out and spent a significant amount of time just figuring out how this was going to all fit together in here like a puzzle. And this is what I came up with. I wanted the lavs up high so I could see them, and I wanted the heavy stuff like the batteries down on the bottom to kind of weight it down and keep on the bottom of this, because you got to remember when you're traveling that's going to close up. And I'll put a piece of foam between them to kind of break that up a little bit so the lavs don't get scratched. But anyway, when this all collapses down, there's a piece of foam there that'll kind of squish all this stuff down and keep it in place. And then those batteries, or those lavs, excuse me, just sit on top of it. So I found these cases. They're really solid. The locking mechanism is not complicated. It's pretty simple. They're very simple to operate, unlike some of the other devices, which are a little more tricky to lock. There isn't really too much of a way to secure this. There's these little padlock places right here, but those would be pretty easy to cut through with a pair of wire cutters or anything. So not really secure through airports and stuff, but if I'm going through an airport, I probably want to have this easy to open quickly, because the TSA is going to be all over this, man. It looks like a bomb. Anytime they look at that on an X-ray, they're going to take their time looking through this. So no need trying to lock it up. Just let them have at it. And I think once they get in there, they'll see it's microphones and stuff. But it looks pretty hazardous going on an airplane. I don't blame the poor guys for wanting to see what this is all about, especially because they've probably never seen anything like this. It looks completely homemade, because it is. Anyway, I wanted to have those up high, and as you can see along here, I've got some cables that I use frequently. These are all USB charging cables. From this one I use for keeping a phone charged. That's a nice thing to have in there. This is actually my old cell phone. I think this is an iPhone SE 6 or something. It's ancient, but it still works great. It's really small. And I don't use it for a phone anymore. I put some Velcro on the back, and I just mount that right in there. And I use it for all of the different tools. It's got obviously a clock, a picture of my cat. Here we go. And your apps. It has Wi-Fi, so I'm able to get online if I need to. I can check messages. I can check texts. I can use any of my apps in there. I can, if I'm lost, I've got a map app, all kinds of different handy stuff in there. I think the main one that I like to use is the simple timer. Having a nice little stopwatch or a countdown timer, an egg timer type of thing, is really nice to have if you're timing a scene or anything. If you've got a clock handy like that, it's super nice to have. I won't go all into the iPhone right now, but it's also got a countdown timer. So if you wanted to, when I'm shooting with my camera, sometimes they're limited to half-hour blocks of time before I have to hit the record button again. So I'll put a little timer on here, a 29-minute timer or 30-minute timer to remind me that that camera needs to be restarted, or something like that, or just a basic clock if you need that. You can set alarms, whatever you need, but super nice to have a phone right there, even though I'm not using it to call people or text that much. I've got one in my pocket for that. This is just my old one that I'll use. It's got, you know what the apps are in there. You've got a little camera. You can check email if you need. You can put people on your calendar, schedule, whatever you want. It's super nice to have a kind of an old phone that I never use anymore. Also USB chargeable, so you got to have the special cable for that, of course, which is an Apple cable. That takes a special kind of thing. There's another one here, which is I used to charge my little speakers that I've shown you before, my little Bluetooth speakers. I think that's what that one's for. I forget what all these are for, but this is for charging something else, I can't remember. Anyway, all these little different attachments. I've just twist tied. I put a little piece of Velcro on there, on each of them. And then as you can see along the back here, there's Velcro strips. So I can mount these things with Velcro to that. Here, this is actually one I still use. This is an old connector for an early iPad. I don't know if you guys remember those, but that's kind of a bigger iPad connector right there. I still use that sometimes. So anything you need to charge, any devices you need that require a special cable. I think these guys actually require a special cable, if I'm not mistaken. I just mounted those all right there, so they're all super handy. Once I had everything kind of measured out and figured out where I wanted to put it, I gave it some more thought and said, well, how am I going to do this? The first thought was just to mount everything in the plucky foam. And I tried that, and it just wasn't working, guys. The plucky foam is okay if you're using it for a big device like a camera, but I was trying to do some pretty intricate cuts with it, and it just wasn't working. And I said, you know what, I'm going to have to hard mount all of these charging stations to the base of this. But I also realized something else, is that all of the cables that are coming out of these, the power cables that come out like that one out of the USB, or these guys, each of them has a little power cable that goes out. Everything has a power cable that goes out, obviously, and I didn't want to have them cluttering up this space right here, so I decided to put them underneath it. And probably the trickiest thing about doing this was building this little piece of wood mount. It's like a base plate that I built out of just a piece of thin project plywood. You can get it at Home Depot. Really thin. I think it was 1/8 of an inch or something like that, or really, but a little bit flexible. Not very heavy. That had to be really lightweight. I don't want a big thick board under there. I wanted something really thin, and all I did was carefully measured the dimensions that I was going to cut to, how far down in the case I wanted it to go, and then sketched that out with a pen and took a jigsaw to it, very carefully cut the piece of wood to really carefully fit snugly at the right elevation in this case. The top is a little wider than the bottom. It kind of tapers in a little bit, so I had to figure that out. It's mounted to pieces of wood trim that go around the base, and when I get further in the video, I'll open this up so you guys can see that. I want you to see what I did down there, but I wanted to kind of work backwards, reverse engineer it so you can see how I built it, and then I'll put it all back together for you. So that probably took the most amount of time. I sanded it down real nicely, hand sanded the edges down so it was a smooth fit. Painted it black, got it kind of cheap black spray paint and just sprayed the whole thing black. Oh, and then once that's in there, how is it going to stay in there? How am I going to keep that from moving around? It's fine when it's flat like this, but when I pick it up and take it as a suitcase anywhere, that board is going to move around in there, and I didn't want that. So I thought about mounting it with some screws from the other side, you know, drilling in some screws from below and mounting it that way. I thought about gluing it to the base. That's another thing, but that makes it tricky to get out if you need to make it a change or an adjustment or a repair. So glue is out of the question. I didn't want something that permanent. And what I decided to do is go with industrial strength Velcro. And I got a big roll of that on Amazon, and I used the whole roll. I used it not only on the base of this to hold this base plate to the case, but I also used it on the back here. I used Velcro everywhere. And this isn't cheap, flimsy Velcro. This is like outdoor, super sticky. You can mount planters and like bird houses outdoors in the rain with this stuff. So once it's on there, you can get it off, but it's super strong. And it's a little expensive for the big roll, but I was totally worth it, and it makes it reconfigurable if I need to do something different here. You can't really see too well. I guess you can see, but these, I didn't put Velcro straight to the back of this case. I actually got these pieces of trim right here, and when I disassemble it, you'll see. I wanted to be able to mount my Røde Lavs and transmitters and receivers to that, but I wanted something that was removable, and I didn't want to put Velcro all over my Rødes. You can't do that. You can't put it on the clip because you need that clip to get into cold shoe mounts and stuff like that. So what I wanted to do was I bought a pack of these little cold shoe mounts. I think I got 8 or 10 of them, pretty cheap, and I have mounted the soft side of the Velcro to those, and then I have the wood trim is mounted to the plastic with Velcro, and then I painted those black again, as I said, same can of cheap spray paint. I sprayed those 3 as well, and that allows me to stick these on there and kind of move them around however I want, like that. And then I can just slide out those really easily. And if I add devices or remove devices, I'm not stuck with Velcro glued and all that. I can easily take those out. I've even got a couple spare ones down here that I keep handy just in case I need to mount something else. So it's good to have a couple extra. And that way you can move these around however you want. Like with these, it's a little tricky with the cables coming in. I couldn't mount them like this next to each other because you needed room for the cable to come. So I came up with a nice little angle like that. It looks cool, and you can get those just how you want with that. And once you do that, they don't come off. I mean, you can peel them off, but they're not going anywhere. They really stay put. Okay, and that way you're not getting Velcro all over your lavs and receivers. So there's 3 pieces of wood trim in there. On the bottom, I didn't need another piece of wood trim. I guess if I got more lavs, I could mount another one down there. But 3 I'm only using 2 really, and then I use this 3rd one just to kind of mount some extra cables to. These are the cables that go from the receivers, the Røde receivers, into your cameras, and then down below my spares, all my auxiliary cables. So I didn't need all 3. The bottom row, I didn't do a piece of wood trim. I just put the Velcro, stuck it right to the case, and that's fine too. But I really like having the Røde devices elevated and a little more configurable that way. You see, and I've got the receivers down here as well, and they're upside down because it's strange. On the Røde microphones, the USB comes in on the right-hand side, right here. And on the receivers, plug into your camera, it comes in on the left, so I had to mount it upside down, which is a little strange. I'm sure there's a reason for that. Røde is an Australian company, so I'm not sure what they were thinking down there, down under. The new Røde microphone systems come in a nice little all-in-one charging case. You put your 3 Røde devices in there, your 2 mics and your receiver. You just put them all in there, and you plug the case into one USB cord, which is brilliant. So you don't have to have 3 cords for every one. I guess everybody doesn't want to build a case like this. So Røde got on it, and they built on these nice little all-in-one containers that are not only for charging, but for also updating the device with firmware, stuff like that. You can plug it straight into your computer, one cord into your computer, and upload or download all of your audio files into your laptop that way. So they've improved that. I'm not sure, if I get one of those, I'll probably have to mount those down in here. I've got some extra room on the base here for that. So if I got 1 or 2 of those Go 2 Pro wireless systems with the time code, I'll probably have those down here. So I hope that makes sense up here. Cables, I've got my Velcro right there too, and a little piece of Velcro on the flashlight. So that actually sticks in there. Oops, let me turn that off. That sticks in there really nicely, doesn't it? Look at that. It stays put. I've got Velcro on the bottom of the Sony battery charger to hold that to the base plate. Same on the USB. These are all mounted. The chargers are mounted to the base plate with Velcro, and it works really well and everything. It's nice because you can remove it too. Like I've got the anchor charger anchored to the base plate. Everything's stuck down with that Velcro. Except the loose stuff like these, I just kind of leave dangling in there. The mic, I've got a little Velcro on there so I can put it up there if I want. But I usually just leave it down in here, honestly. But when I'm traveling, I don't put it up there. I'll usually actually, when I'm breaking it down, I'll usually put the microphone back in the case that it comes with and put that in here just to protect the microphone a little bit in transit. But when you're out in the field, I do like to have it kind of up there so I can see the light to indicate they're charging. All of these are charged right now, so there's no blinking blue lights, but these blink blue as they're charging. Same with the phone. Everything kind of blinks and lets you know it's charging. So once it's charged, you can see clearly that they're ready to go. This is a nice place to keep your charged batteries too. These are some extra batteries that I have for my camera. Once they're charged, I'll usually put them in a little bag and just keep those right there so they're quick, easy to grab and pop into your camera. And they fit in there really nice and snug. So when these are charged up, I pop them out and just drop them right there. The GoPro, the same thing. I decided not to mount the GoPro to the base. I did that at first. I mounted it down here. It was just kind of taking up unnecessary space. I don't use GoPros that much, but I do use them from time to time when I don't want to damage or submerge my camera, or I'm doing something like riding on a bicycle or mounting to the hood of a car. I don't want to do that with my expensive camera, so I'll put a GoPro up there. So when I do use the GoPros, it's super handy to have some extra batteries charged and ready to go. I've got a bunch of them because they don't have a very long battery life. I think it's about 40 minutes to an hour, depending on what you're doing. But it's good to have some charged and ready to go. But I decided not to mount this to the base. I just mounted it to the spare space on the back of this charger with a piece of Velcro. So, and that I can take off if I want to also, if I'm not using that. But I just leave that mounted there. That way you can have your GoPro, have all your batteries in one place for your GoPro. As you can see over here, I've got an extension cord hanging out the side. This comes from underneath the case. I put a lot of thought into this. I was going to drill a hole in the side of the case, like right about there or something, and then have an extension cord socket right there, and then be able to plug into the other side with an extension cord or something like that. And I've seen that done. I have seen one guy build a case sort of like this, and he took the time to build this cool little socket, so you could completely close the case and charge it like that. But it was kind of for some heavier devices that he was doing that for. This doesn't draw a whole lot of power. It's just USB power, and it's not like it requires a big heavy extension cord. Also, I didn't want to drill through the case and have moisture getting in, something I thought about. I kind of liked having it all sealed up nice and tight when I'm traveling. And the main goal was just to have one thin, lightweight extension cord. This is not a heavy-duty, thick extension cord. It's kind of cool. I haven't seen one like this. It's got a cloth wrap and it's sort of narrow, so it stores right here. I'll show you a little bit later, but it wraps up and stores right in this area and kind of keeps all this stuff in place. It acts as extra padding, and all I do is that at the beginning of the day, I find a good place for my case, set a nice safe place to set it down where I can get to easily, backstage or something like that. Or if it's at a wedding, I'll usually go in the groomsmen's room, the groom's room. That always seems like to be a pretty safe place to store this stuff that you can get to easily. It's kind of the first thing I do when I get to the set, is find a place to set up and back up devices and store stuff that I'm not using. I want to find a nice, safe, lockable room. Anyway, that's kind of the first thing I do when I get there, besides find the coffee machine. Anyway, that's about 15 feet long, I think, that cable. And that I just unwind that. I can either plug that straight into the wall if I'm near an outlet, or if I need to go a long distance, I'll use a heavy-duty 50-foot or even 100-foot extension cord and run that across the yard or whatever. But usually I'm indoors and I can easily find a place to just plug this in. It's not even a 3-prong plug, it's a 2-prong plug, so I don't even have to find a place with balanced, grounded power, I should say, which is really nice. A lot of places in Hawaii are old, like my house, and they don't have a place, they don't have 3 prongs for your plug. So it's really nice just to use the old 2-prong. That runs down into the bottom of the case, below the base plate, and then I've got everything distributed down there, coming up all around the sides, and keeping my cables to a minimum. Because even with those secure like that, you can see there's not a lot of clutter, but you still have these USB cables everywhere. So I'll show you that when I break it down. That fits right here very nicely. And it's not a big, heavy, big, heavy-duty cable that takes up all kinds of space. This little guy right here, I just sort of leave loose. Right now it's plugged in because I'm charging the USB battery power center there. But like I said, those stay charged all day. They take a while to charge. I think it's done charging there. And when it's done charging, I don't usually need to charge it until I get home for the next day, or even 2 days at a time. But so I'll just kind of keep that plugged in right there and keep that handy. When I take this out and put this in my gig bag to charge my Tascam device or something like that, or when I'm traveling, I'll keep that in my backpack so I can charge my phone or iPad or laptop. Super nice to have, and you have to carry that on. You can't put these batteries, at least you're not supposed to put these batteries, you're not supposed to check the bag with these batteries. So it's good to have all these types of batteries in one place so you can carry it on. If you tried to put this in as luggage, as check bag, it's probably going to get, I've never tried to do that, but you're not supposed to do that. A lot of people don't know that. You're not supposed to check these. You'd think it would be the opposite, and they didn't want you to carry these on. But it's just the opposite. You're allowed to carry on most of these batteries. You might have to store them differently, put them in plastic cases or Ziploc bags, but they don't want those going into cargo. That's where the fires start, I guess, on planes. If it's up in the passenger area, they can monitor it a little bit more carefully. I guess if there was a fire, they could put it out with an extinguisher or something like that. But it's a little tricky when you're traveling with all these batteries, especially international. It depends on the agent. They might just not want you to do it and reject you. But if you're going to do it, try doing it with carry-on, and this is a perfect device for that. All of these have a little battery in them too, so they're technically batteries. The Rode mic is a battery. Even the phone has, these all have little batteries in them, the flashlight, everything. So keep that in mind when you're traveling. You can put the heavy stuff like the tripods, light stands, anything non-electronic, you know, all that heavy stuff, put that in a road case or a trunk and send that down into cargo. Put that down in as baggage, and you can carry a couple of those big bags down below. When I'm traveling, I usually do my heavy stuff and some clothing and luggage down, 2 suitcases down below, and then I'll carry either this, or I might have all my lenses. You could put your lenses and cameras down in cargo, but I don't trust it. And I've seen how baggage handlers throw stuff around, and I've just got too much invested in lenses and stuff. So I'll be apt to carry my camera stuff, my lenses and cameras on board with me, put that in the overhead, and then treat this as a second. You might have to pay extra to carry a second bag like this, but usually you're allowed one bag and a knapsack or something like that. But anyway, it's a little tricky doing that when you've got a bunch of electronics. But so when I'm done charging that, that's usually going to go out in my field gig bag, and that won't be here. But that's Velcro mounted down, and I'll just keep that little charger with it so I can easily drop it back in here and plug into that spare USB to charge that at the end of the day. But during the day, I just tuck it away like that, something like that. And then you've got this USB port is opened up, and I'll plug my 8th USB cable right in there. Okay, so you've got 10 USB cables coming out right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the lavs and receivers, 7 for the Rode mic, 8, 9, and 10. The 3 remaining ones are for this little pack for the GoPros batteries. That just kind of slides along the side here and plugs in there. If I'm not using GoPros, I can free that up, take that out, and just have an extra USB. These other 2, I believe, 9 and 10, drop down below. And those are charging, what are those charging? Those must be charging my 2 camera batteries. I think that's where they're ending up, right there. So that's 10 altogether, 10 USB cables. If you can find one that has more than 10, I wasn't able to. This is the first device I got for this whole contraption, was this USB port station that I got on Amazon. If they make them with more than 10, maybe grab it. It's very compact, but maybe they make one with 15 or 20. I don't know. It might be nice to have more, but I'm usually fine with this. You kind of have to swap them around a little bit sometimes, but as long as you're able to do that pretty quickly. The only little thing that I'm not really showing you here, just because it looks a little messy, is that I will use some gaffer's tape, some white gaffer's tape on these just to keep them from coming loose. They're in there pretty good, but they don't lock or anything like that, and they will slide out. And it's not a catastrophe, but what was happening is that I would be charging my batteries and maybe in a hurry to get to lunch, and if one's out just a little bit, all your batteries are charging except for one lav, and that one lav is, like that'll always end up like on a main actor or something. So when you're taking that break and you're charging, take an extra 30 seconds just to confirm that you see your lights and indicators on everything that you're trying to charge. And if one's a little off, you won't get that blue light, and you know that that's come loose. So what I'll do is put a little piece of white, you could use electrical tape or gaffer's tape, any kind of tape really, but just on those to kind of keep them in place. I just put a piece there and a piece there, and it just kind of holds things down. And certainly after you get off of the airplane or you're been traveling, always double check these. I haven't seen a USB locking system. USBs don't really do that. They're not like mic cables, but that would be super handy, right? If USB locked. Maybe it's something I don't know about. Yeah, you can also, once your mic is charged or being used, you can unplug that and plug into your USB on your battery. You can plug into that and just charge your battery if you've been using that all day, and that can just sit back in there, or you could mount it up here, whatever you want it to do, drop it back down in there. Usually I'll just kind of set it there so I can see the blinking indicator to show me that when it's charged. And the same with your coal miner's flashlight. You can mount that. Oops, that is a separate cable. See, there's a special cable for that. That's not a USB-C. That's one of these other cables I have, so you gotta do that. But it is nice to have them when that sun goes down, especially in Hawaii, because there's not a lot of street lamps here. We keep things really dark for the wildlife. But it is dark out on a lava field, let me tell you. Especially with no moon. It's about as pitch black as you can get. So it's good to have some lights, a couple of lights. I've even got backups of these in case one goes dead or I lose one. I've got a second pair for each of these. Or if you've got somebody you're working with, an assistant or a boom man or anything, somebody, a cameraman that doesn't have a flashlight, it's nice to be able to hand one off and save the day that way. There are different sizes of these as indicated, and I don't travel with those in here. These small 550s, I do put them in there, but I've got some of the medium and some of the large for some of my lights, and they're really thick. They won't transport in here as well. It's too deep and the lid won't fit. So I'll put those in a separate bag that I carry on as well. Another thing you could do is ship this thing. You could put this whole thing and spend the money to have it shipped. If you're going international, something like that, you might not want to try to deal with getting this through international TSA agents, and just pay international shipping company to mail it to the location you're going to for the week or the month, and it'll be there when you get there, hopefully. That way you're not dealing with trying to travel through international airports with batteries. This is one thing I will also say. If you're in a position where you've got a phone charger, especially out in a field or something, or on a beach or some remote location where everybody's phone is dying, you're going to be the hero if you've got a phone charger, because everybody on a film set usually relies on their phone for something, especially the producer and those administration people. They're always checking emails and texts, even on shoots. And it's funny because the tool that they're using is usually a $1,000 iPhone, not like my iPhone SE 6, which is what it is. But they're heavily relying on that communication. So they might have reception, but if their phone is going dead, they're dead in the water, right? They're a lame duck. So having a charger, it's a great way to endear yourself to the cast and crew. If you can, they can tap into that. And you know, you could probably charge $1 per charge too if you wanted to, or certainly get to know the cute actresses on set, or actors. I don't mean to be sexist, but you could definitely get to know people, especially if you had some cool beverages like some nice bottled water, and you know, they're coming up to you for snacks, bottled water, and free phone charge. Anyway, I'm just joking around, as you can tell. Anyway, I'll keep that right there. One other thing I will mention is that once you are charged, you do have your batteries charged up, it's a good idea to unplug them. And as you can see, I've got a little teeny piece of Velcro on the end of this cord, so you can either store them. Let me just do all of these, like I was about to go out and use them. Okay, you just kind of do that, and then the whole thing. So once they're charged, don't keep them plugged in, unplug them. And same with the microphone. So this whole thing, you can see I've got a couple twist ties on there just to try to make that a little more manageable. That just drops in here. And make sure they're not turned on. Make sure you don't see any lights, so they're all turned off so they don't drain the battery. And then those are ready to go. Those can slip off and jump out. But this is usually more like I travel with it, like that. The chargers. Kind of press everything down with your foam, which I don't have handy right this second. I'll find that and show you how this foam works. And the last thing is just pull your power cable up. And I've got a twist tie on that, which I just keep on there. You can see this is the single plug. It's not grounded, so that's easy to plug into just about any situation. Even in Europe, if you had an adapter, although you don't want to fry your gear, I'm not going to tell you how to operate in Europe, but that's pretty universal in America. You can go into any old house or use a common utility extension cord if you want. You're not stuck with that ground because you really don't need it for such a low voltage operation like this. I really like this cable. It's a little different than other ones. Twisty tie, or you could use a rubber band, and that all just kind of sits. I didn't quite get it right, but that sits right on top of everything. Okay, so everything's clear. Nothing's going to get crimped off when I shut this case. I won't leave those GoPros in there either. I'll put those, I'll show you where I'm going to put those. I'm going to set those aside for a second. And they're going to go in a different case. But if you were traveling, I guess you could just throw them in here. You know, get some, I could get some more Velcro and mount them to that. I love my Velcro. When everything's squared away, you just carefully close everything. Latch it up. And you're good to go. Super solid case. It's pretty heavy. I wouldn't want somebody to throw or drop this, but if it did happen, you're probably going to be okay. You know, like I would hate to see that get mishandled, but if it did take a small fall, these are really, really nicely made. And for the price, you can't beat them. It's my favorite thing on Amazon right now is these cases. I hope they don't stop making them, but there's other types of cases, but they're a little more expensive. This was just right. The depth was good. I put a little label on here, as you can see, to differentiate it from my other case in the background. And then on this one, I also just took some of that extra Velcro and put them in these. It's a great place to mount stuff, like a microphone or anything you want to put Velcro on. You can just, a phone, whatever you want. You could put those lavaliers, you could mount those on here, whatever you want. I just had some extra that comes in handy. I think I got everything here, guys. The next thing I'll do is disassemble this all, break it down so you can see how I built that base plate and mounted all the wires underneath, because that really takes care of a lot of the clutter. Makes it much prettier. All around the rim here, you've got rubber gasket. I don't know if it's rubber, but it's some kind of gasket right there that keeps water out. It's really airtight and waterproof. So if you left this out in the rain, all your equipment's going to be high and dry. I'm not sure you could submerge it. I haven't tried that. If you're that bold, send me some videos of that. I'd like to check it out. You might be okay as long as the little valve is shut here down at the bottom. If that's open, there's a little bit of air getting in, but I guess you could clamp that down like a submarine hatch, and that might just make this completely water proof, not just water resistant. But anyway, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Don't submerge your battery charging case. There's no reason for that. That would be silly. When you've got that all in there like that, simply close the top. Something's sticking through there. That cable right there. There it is. And then lock it down. And it's real solid. Super rugged case. It's too bad the hatches aren't a little bit more high-tech. Like the Nanook case I showed you, those latches really were nice. But for 30 or 40 bucks, you can't beat this. One thing I don't know if I showed you earlier, it does have this little plate right here comes out. It slips out. I can show you that, I suppose. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe so you can get a business card in there, or a luggage tag or something like that. Anyway, it's not really anything important, I don't think. But I just leave it in there. I even tried to glue it in there at one point, as you can see, but nothing really sticks to this kind of plastic. It doesn't. It's very slippery, very Teflon-y. So anyway, just keep that in there. And like I said, when you're unpacking, if you've gone up in an airplane at a different altitude, like Mexico City or the Rocky Mountains, if you're up a few thousand feet or more, you might find that your case has created a vacuum. And when you try to open it, you can't. There's no really way to get in there, except maybe to go in there with a butter knife and pry it open, but that might damage your case. So what they've done here is put this little air valve on there, and you just release that, go like that, and let some air in there, and then you're able to open it. So nice little touch. Anyway, let's break this puppy down. I'm not really looking forward to doing this because it takes a while to put it back together, but let me pull some of this stuff out and we'll break it all down. Take these batteries out. And the cables I'm going to leave for a second. Let me take the microphone, the lights. If I showed you that I did put some Velcro on that flashlight and another piece down there on the base, which you'll see in a second, and that hangs on there really nicely. And also, if you turn it on, in this mode, you've got a work light on the bottom. When these are out, oops, take these out. When these are out like that, I put a piece of Velcro across the top here, and that just mounts there very nicely like that for a little work light. Isn't that nice? And you can, if you're in the dark, that really helps out a little working area here. So you can see your notes, make adjustments, whatever you need to do. It's nice to have a hands-free situation. And in combination with this on your head, you've really got a well-illuminated working area. So I showed that to you. Press and hold, everything turns off, by the way. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get these mics and lavs out of here. And the phone from 2003. All these little cords and connectors have got to go. And those little guys I'll take out. So it's just the bare essentials. Let's take this battery out. As you can see, I mounted that to the base with some Velcro there, and then Velcro there. So that mounts really securely right there. Let's see, this I can take off, a little GoPro case. Take the batteries out. Let's unplug all these. And these are the two that go down below for the power supply. As you can see, those just tuck down below there. All right, as does the power cable and this cable over here. I'll start by breaking this out. This just sticks. It's very strong Velcro. You really gotta kind of go slow with it, otherwise you'll break something. Maybe your hand. Maybe that just comes right out and unplugs like so. Okay, and on the back, 3 strips of Velcro going perpendicular to the strips that I have down here. They're not lined up. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, but it sure is secure that way, having 3 going perpendicular to the ones on the bottom, if that makes sense. Anyway, this is just the charging base plate that came with these batteries. When I bought these batteries, it came with that, so that was nice. And then these are the chargers for the con batteries for my camera. Those are USB-C. Those I just totally covered the back with Velcro. They both have it's the same. Okay. Okay. And those cables, oh, I'm sorry, they don't go down below. They're just tucked down below this thing to keep them out of the way. And I got these special cables. These I special ordered from Amazon. The ones that came with it were just with the Nikon chargers, the Lumix chargers, I should say, were straight. They were like that, USB, but these I bought because they came in at a right angle and took up less space in the case. Otherwise, it stuck out pretty far, if I can demonstrate. These are the ones that came with it. And they worked fine, but they stuck out a little bit farther, so I wasn't able to get them as close together. And it just took up a little bit more room that way. So to keep everything really tight, I purchased the right angle ones. And that saved a little space. Not much, but every little bit helps when you're trying to make, see? So those I picked up on Amazon for cheap. They're just USB to USB-C with the right angle. And you'll need 2 of them to go with those chargers. And then there's the other cable. Get 2 of those. I'll probably add those to my list of cables that I've made available for you guys. If you want to just simply send me an email. It's not a marketing ploy or anything like that. I just like to keep in touch with my fans and subscribers. And as a way of saying thank you, if you want me to send you a list of all these different cables, just my email's in the links below or in the comment section below, and just send me a quick note saying you want the list of cables that I have, or anything else you want. It's kind of an extended comment section that's not public, and I try to check those all the time, and I'll get right back to you if I can, and send you that free list of all the different cables. It took me a few hours to compile it, mostly on Amazon. There's a few links that were disconnected on Amazon, and I've included those straight to the, usually to the factory websites. So hit me up and I'll send you that lickety-split, and we can be in touch that way too. This is a forum. So here's the last thing. This is how it all began, was with this charger, as opposed to just plugging all my, oh boy, that's tight. Man, that holds. That Velcro is super heavy duty. I'm going to include a link for that also in the list I'll send you, where to get this heavy duty Velcro. I think it was pretty expensive. It was like 20 or 30 bucks for just a roll, but it was like really long roll of Velcro, and it totally made this job doable. Otherwise, I was dealing with glue, and you know, it was pretty hard. This doesn't unplug there. This actually does go down below, so I'm just going to leave that dangling for a second. And then these guys up at the top, if I can get a little closer, these are the boards that, these are actually just trim, wooden trim that I bought at Home Depot. It's not expensive wood or anything. I spray painted it black, stuck a strip of the soft side Velcro on that, and then the matching length strip of the hard side, the plastic side Velcro on there. So these are very easy to remove. Not easy, but they come off with some finagling. And then I just wanted to get these a little bit up higher. You could do without that, but it was a little nicer to have them up high to get to them. So, and there's 3 of those. It just makes the whole thing a little bit more configurable. And I could mount one down there if I wanted a 4th one. Or if you had a different configuration for some reason, you're not stuck with that, you could mount other things up here if you wanted to, directly to that, as long as you have the Velcro on the soft side. Okay, these down here are just a couple extra spare pieces I had, just in case I wanted to mount something else. There's a soft and a hard there. When I cut out this piece of wood, the edges are not, they're rounded off, so you have to cut that pretty carefully with a jigsaw, an electric jigsaw I would recommend. And around the edges, I cut out a little corner tab to let the cables come up from down below on this side and on this side. And on the corner here, there was enough room with that flat cable. I didn't have to cut a corner there, it just kind of squeezes back down beside. And also on that, I should point out that I reinforced the cable with some duct tape, because when that's sitting in there like that, if I shut the case, I wanted to protect the cord a little bit, just in case it got closed. It's not, I'm not locking it, but just having it like that, if you applied pressure to this, it might, over time, it might wear out that cable. So I just reinforced that with a little bit of duct tape and a piece of electrical tape, just to kind of indicate that that's a power cable. Okay. All right, let's try to take this whole thing off. First we loosen that, and then the whole thing should very slowly just kind of, again, I haven't tried this, I hope I don't break it. Man, it's really in there. Very slowly it is coming up. Super tight. And you'll see why in a second. I've got so much, I'm applying a lot of pressure right there right now. So that really works well. In case I needed to change a cable or something, or reconfigure this, I didn't want to screw it or lock it to the bottom in any way. I wanted it removable. And here, that is showing that clearly. Let me flip this over very gently. And right away you can see how simple that is. It's nothing complicated. It's simply the cable coming in like that. I cut a little notch here. These are the same type of trim that I used. I guess this is a 1x2 wooden trim, and I made my base plate with that. All the way around. You see it's the same type of trim. And this is a very, no, I think that's 1/4 inch plywood, I believe. And easy to work with and very lightweight. And then just trim all the way around. But I did leave room for a gap right here, a little tab right there and right there, so cables could run through. And I also put one in the middle, so cables could run through all the way across. And then it's nothing fancy. I just put that in place with duct tape. You could make something a little more permanent, but nobody's ever going in there. And as long as you've got it kind of taped so it doesn't rattle around, you're fine. Extension cable coming in, you can see that's just a 3-plug cable. And then coming out of there, I've got one cable going all the way over to the USB charger. And the other plug is going to the charger for the Sony batteries. Everything else was USB-C, but these two cables for those two chargers were not, so I had to have those plug in. Okay, and those, you just kind of finagle those around. I'm not going to try to explain it too much, but set those up so they come up down from below. And then when you've got it like you want, make sure to leave those tabs in there, otherwise you're not going to be having any place for cables to work their way through and up. This side is closed all around. There's a middle tab, a middle section here, so these are all 3 pieces of wood there, there, and there, and then there, and there. Okay, then you just glue those, Gorilla Glue those to the base plate. Let that dry for a few hours under pressure, and then just make sure all your, I taped those 2 cables together in there like that using electrical tape before I taped it in place. So those are kind of holding each other in. Work that through there, and when you've got everything like you want it, go ahead and just tape everything down like that using some good quality duct tape, or duct tape's your best bet. Gaffer's tape I think would come loose. Okay, Get everything squared away. And that is your base plate right there. That took the most time doing that. Nothing fancy. You can see, you know, I'm not trying to make it pretty. I'm not even sure. I think I just spray painted all of the wood at one sitting, so it was all black. But that's not even, nobody's even going to see that. And I didn't put the Velcro on until I had it in the case. So that's the last thing you want to do. But make sure to leave those tabs there and there. Just enough, it doesn't have to be any particular size, just enough room for cables, so 2 or 3 cables to get through there. And that's really it, guys. In the bottom, I have put duct tape, I put Velcro like that all around. So it really sticks in there. And then when you're going to bring it back up into place, make sure your cables are coming through like you want them to. Don't rush this part, guys. Oh, that cable comes out over there. This cable comes up here, like that. And then when you've got it like you want, you just kind of drop it back in there. And push it back into place. Not something that you're going to want to do too often, but you can see that if you do need to get in there for some reason, you can. It just takes some real pressure to get that thing out of there. That I didn't realize how strong that bond was going to be, but it's really super tough. And then just push that back in the corner as far as you can, up against the side, and push that down. And the same on this side. Plug that in. Push it up against the side. I'm leaving a little room there for cables. I'm just pushing this side up against the corner as much as I can. Don't crimp that cable too much though, but it can be bent a little bit. Push that down. And both of those are not going anywhere. Okay. You can put these back up if you want. Push those down. A little bit of give and flexibility, but mainly it just gets those roads a little bit more accessible, so they're easier to attach. A little bit, not much, but a little bit. I had this trim, so I figured why not. Each of these comes in like that. And it's going to kind of go around the back, so you want to put that down below and then push it up against the USB charger. And I didn't quite leave enough room back there, but with the Velcro it's nice because it has a little bit of give to it. Nothing's too rigid. And then just tuck those in like that. There's one. Push the cable down as much as you can. Get it nice and tight. I think I'm doing okay here. I'll do the second one the same way. I guess that needs to be on the back one. That's got a little bit of longer run, so that's got to go around this way to the first USB point. Again, guys, I wouldn't rush this part of it. I guess this can come this way, can it? It doesn't have to go around the back. I should have left a little more room there. It's a nice thing about Velcro is it's not permanent. You can reconfigure it pretty quickly. So everything kind of holds itself in place, and with the Velcro it's really tight. So that's not loosey-goosey at all. I wish you could feel it. It's super solid. And just tuck those down as best you can back behind there. There we go. So that's the guts of it. Let's add the rest of the stuff. What I have, the GoPro charger. Plug that in. Let's see how far down it'll come. All the way to the end. Again, that's something you don't always have to have with you. If you're not bringing your GoPro with you, you don't need that. Obviously, you don't need the batteries. But I always have the GoPro handy in that other case. It's just nice. You never know when somebody's going to say, hey, let's get in the water, or let's climb this cliff, and you don't want to bring your big expensive gear up there. So something more like a GoPro is great to have handy. Okay. Again, leaving a little room behind that would have been a good idea. You can sort of press this down behind there. Okay. Okay. And then the USB charging battery like that. Everything pressed up against everything else. The tighter the better. And then there's room for that to just kind of tuck in behind there. That's why I like a little extra room there. And I think that's everything. Then you just got to plug in your cables again. Let me do that real lickety-split. There we go. And now is probably a good time to show you this little trick. This is just white gaffer's tape. It doesn't matter what color it is. And I just, when I've got all my cables in there like I want, I just run a strip back behind, like that. Tuck it around the sides, and that keeps those from coming out quite so easily. It also kind of covers them up, so be careful. If one does come out a little bit, you're not as apt to see it, but I find that helps a lot. If you wanted to do one in the back too as well, but I think this is enough. And then one in the front. There you go. Just keeps those USB cables from coming out. If anybody sees a USB port like this that has locks of some kind, let me know. I'd love to update that. It doesn't look so pretty, but that holds them in there a lot more securely. And again, when you first set this up, I always recommend double checking your connections at the beginning of the day, and certainly after you've been traveling and this has been wiggled around in baggage or whatever. And again, and then when you need to charge that, what I'll usually do is just leave this last port here untaped, and you can just switch that out if you need to charge your USB battery at the end of the day. Just free up a port and stick that in there. Okay, so that's charging that now. Just remember, when it's done charging, you can unplug it. I don't think it's good for it to leave it plugged in. I think it also heats up the unit a little bit, so you don't want to create any unnecessary heat. Okay, you want to start a fire. All right. There are twist ties on these cables. Okay. Then you've got the, let me get that a little bit tighter. Get that cable tucked behind there like that. And then pushing this all the way against this side, so there's a little bit more room there. It squeezes the flashlight a little tighter and creates a little bit more room here for that cable. Just sit in there like that if you want. Okay, 4 Sony batteries. Clip in place. One thing I did notice about these Sony batteries, when you charge them, You push them all the way in and they lock. But when you're done charging, it's not plugged in right now. The lights will go green, red to green, and you can just kind of kick them back one notch. And they're still held in place by the case, but they're not charging. Okay? So if you're in transit, that might be something you want to do. Okay, or better yet, take them out and put them in Ziploc bags to keep them separate. So to keep TSA happy when you walk through TSA, to see those batteries in separate bags might be a good idea. The worst case scenario, they're going to say you can't get on the plane with those bags, with those batteries. In which case you could pop the batteries out and put them in your car or mail them to yourself, or worst case, you're gonna, they might get discarded. I don't know why that would happen, but you get to your destination, you've got to find some of these batteries. But they're pretty universal. It shouldn't be too hard to find these Sony batteries anywhere in the world. There's all kinds of different companies that make them. So wherever you're going, it probably wouldn't be too hard to find those batteries when you get there. And then lastly, your 2 camera batteries. Putting all the guys back into place. Oops. As you can see, each of those cables, I just put a little teeny piece of, wrapped a little piece of Velcro around there, in addition to a twist tie. And I tried to label them a little bit so I could tell them apart. They all look the same, certainly in the dark. And those kind of just store there. I suppose you could put those in a Ziploc bag, but it's nice to have them all handy like this. It's also nice on inventory. At the end of the day, you can kind of eyeball it and see what's missing, which is important to me. I always feel like I forgot something. You know what I mean? Anyway, those can all just kind of mount wherever you want. Okay, there's those 2 extra ones I mentioned. And we're back where we started. These little plastic bags that I have for the batteries. For some reason, TSA likes to see that. I guess it has something to do with preventing fires on the airplane. Having them in a plastic bag. Although you'd think that the plastic would be flammable. I'm not quite sure why they do that, but that's how they like it. The handy light. And the battery, the microphone. Like I said earlier, you could travel with that, but I put the mic in the mic case, which is conveniently not handy, but I just put the mic case in there. Okay, and then this comes in last. Something like that. There we go. Squared away, huh? Do pick up some of these guys. These are super handy. That's the nice thing about them, is when you have them turned on, you wave your hand in front of them and they turn off. Super nice hands-free device. So you're working and then you're talking, you don't shine that in somebody's eyes, you don't have to find the button. You just wave in front of it. Super handy. And then when you're ready to turn it off, just press and hold the power button. Couple of those, and that is pretty much it, guys. Got it all back together. Put those cords in there like that. How do you guys like my pointer, by the way? This actually was my father's. I found it in his office drawer when he passed away. It's one of the things I found that he used for he was a lawyer, and he used that for his cases. He would use an old-fashioned pointer. I've never used it until today. I kind of dig it. Anyway, thanks, Pop. That's everything, guys. When you're all done, everything's squared away. Put your phone back in there. Oh yeah, take the batteries out. And put your mic in the case. phone back on top like that. Check your edges, your seal, and lock it up, baby. Let's go Europe. Let's go. I'm ready. I labeled that to distinguish it from my GoPro kit because they're so similar. I put a business card on there. Like I said earlier, it might be a good idea to put a AirTag, one of those little AirTag discs in the bottom or any place hidden in this case, so that if you lose it or it gets stolen, you can do your best to track it down, at least get in the general area where it is. And it's more likely that you misplaced it and can't find it on a busy set. When you're hurrying to get out of a closed set, it's nice to be able to pop open your phone, open up the app called Find My Mac, I believe it's called, and that'll show you all your devices, including your AirTags. So I've used that a couple times. It's a real lifesaver. It's also good to have one of those on your keys. So those little AirTags, I think you can get a pack of 3 or 6 of them, and they come in super handy. I've got one in here, one in my GoPro kit, and one in my camera bag. Just any bag that you've got with valuable stuff in it. I'm going to put one in my Tascam gig bag. That's a lot of valuable gear in there. That way I can kind of see where everything is if something should happen. So definitely a worthwhile insurance policy to get to protect your gear in case it gets lost. So again, I will put the link down below where to get these cases, and I'll just email me if you want to know all the cords and cables and connectors that I use for that, guys. And I'll be happy to send that to you. Any suggestions or ideas or improvements, just email me. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate your watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, so that really helps me out a lot if I can get it to that point. So I can keep on making videos like this to help you out. I really appreciate it. Aloha from Hilo, Hawaii. Mahalo. And shoots, brah. Shoots.